Warren presents Stay Wide Awake. Season 1, Episode 6. During dinner tonight, Warren was watching a kids' show called Are You Afraid of the Dark? The show really scared Warren and he was frightened by all the monster characters that were shown in the show. One even showed a scary-looking clown, another showed a creepy alive doll, and one other showed zombies, and also showed ghosts. Warren didn't want to go to bed at 8 p.m., so he was allowed to play in the living room while his guardians watched TV, which was a horror movie. Warren got drawn to the horror movie and it surely scared him to the core. 12 a.m. When he was done playing in the living room, he was tucked into bed. Warren was already afraid of what he saw on TV and was afraid he will get nightmares from it, but his guardians calmed him down from his fears. A while later, after Warren's guardians got to their bedroom, Warren suddenly woke up from a pre-nightmare. He kept his eyes open for a little while, until he got terrified when he suddenly heard a creepy sound from the walls. Warren heard this creepy sound from the walls for 2 minutes until he got up from his bed and decided to go to his guardian's bedroom to tell them what he heard inside the walls. Warren tried to open the door, but it was already locked. Warren could hear moaning inside the room. He knocked on the door, but no one opened it. Warren decided to go back to his bedroom and try to fall asleep. But right when he started to drift off, he heard the same creepy sound again. The sound sounded like a bird making a sound inside the walls, and Warren thought there was some kind of scary monster inside the house. Walls making creepy sounds and noises. This keeps Warren up for a long time, and he wishes to fall asleep, but he could not because the creepy noise keeps going on, and Warren was getting freaked out about it. Whenever Warren starts to drift to sleep, he then thinks about the noise and keeps his eyes wide open. A little while later, the noise stopped, which made Warren relieved. Warren decided to go to the kitchen to get some milk to drink. Warren went to the kitchen and went to open the refrigerator, and he got out the milk, then he set it on the counter. Warren got a cup to pour the milk in. He set it on the counter and grabbed the milk to open it. He tried to open the milk, but it was too hard to open it. When Warren was close to unleashing the cap, he accidentally dropped the milk and it splattered on the floor, making a big mess. Warren got afraid and ran to his bedroom and closed the door quietly. Warren's dad got out to go to the kitchen and was shocked by the big mess of milk on the floor. Not knowing who made the mess, he spent the rest of the hour mopping the floor. Warren saw this and he seemed afraid that he was gonna get caught. 1 a.m. Warren fell asleep a while later after making a big mess on the kitchen floor. He then had a nightmare about being in a haunted house, and he was all alone. He then looked out the window and saw lots of zombies trying to get inside the haunted house to eat him. Terrified, he goes upstairs to an empty bedroom and hides inside the closet. But then he heard zombies breaking into the haunted house, and Warren couldn't bear to keep calm. Just then, a zombie opened the closet and found Warren. Warren screamed and the zombie started grabbing him and picking out one of his eyeballs. Right then, Warren woke up from the horrible nightmare he had. Warren opened his eyes wide open. Warren's room was dark and he was afraid to move a muscle because of the nightmare he had. After 5 minutes, Warren got brave enough to get up from his bed and turn his bedroom lights on. After that, Warren went to play games on his iPad. Unfortunately, his iPad was already dead because he forgot to charge it earlier. He went to plug it in for it to charge. He then decided to go to the living room to watch TV. Warren tried to find the remote, but he couldn't find it. He decided to play with toys from the living room from when he played with them earlier. A while later, Warren finally finds the remote while playing with his toys and turns the TV on. When the TV turned on, the horror movie Warren's guardians were watching came back on. Apparently, Warren's guardians accidentally left the horror movie CD in the DVD player, so when Warren went to turn on the TV, he got to watch the thriller movie instead. The horror thriller movie scared Warren enough for him to turn the TV off and couldn't figure out how to change the channel to watch a TV show. Warren went back to his room to check on what percent his iPad was on. It was 16%, and Warren decided to play games on his iPad while it's charging. After a long while of playing games on his iPad died and had to be recharged. Warren plugged it in and he went to his bookshelf to grab some books to read. After reading 9 short books, Warren went to grab another book about pigs. When he read it, he got terrified by the illustrations, which showed 3 pigs putting their daddy pig in a meat grinder machine, shredding their daddy pig in agony and making him suffer from pain. The illustration was graphic too, showing blood and guts, which Warren couldn't handle, and he threw the book away. Warren wanted to go to sleep, but he didn't want to get any more nightmares, and it would take him a long time to fall asleep, so he went to knock on his guardian's room to sleep with his guardians. He knocked on the door, and he could hear moaning from the room again. Warren went to the living room to open the DVD player and get the horror movie CD, and slid the CD on the latch bolt, making it successful for the door to open. When Warren opened the door, he saw them both acting dirty and horny. Warren stared at them both with a confusing look. Warren's dad went to get him and put him in bed, not even bothering to block his door. Warren's dad, Darius, goes back to his and his wife's bedroom. After a while, Warren starts hearing the creepy noise again. Warren was once again terrified, but he couldn't find a way to stop the sound. 2 a.m. Warren stayed up in his room until 2 a.m. when he decided to get out. He didn't hear that creepy noise for a while, so he decided to go to the living room and try to change the channel to a TV show he likes. Since the horror movie CD wasn't in the DVD player, Warren had it easy going through the channels on cable. Unfortunately for him, the channels on television were blocked, and the only channel Warren could watch was an old political network that Warren thought was boring, and had no interest in it. Warren watched the political channel for a while until he got tired and bored and turned the TV off. Warren went to his room to check on how many percent his iPad was. It was 46%, which he thought was enough for him to unplug it and do whatever he wants on it. After minutes of playing on his iPad, Warren wanted to eat something, so he went to the kitchen to get some ice cream. Warren couldn't reach the freezer, so he grabbed a stool to get to the freezer, and successfully got the ice cream carefully. Warren then opened the top and went to grab a spoon and a bowl. Warren used his spoon to scoop ice cream and put it in his bowl. After 5 minutes of getting enough ice cream in his bowl, he put the top back on the ice cream container and stood on the stool to open the freezer for him to put the ice cream back inside it. After that, he took his bowl of ice cream to his room and ate ice cream and played games on his iPad. After a while of playing games, the internet connection wasn't working, which causes Warren's iPad not to work. Since his iPad wasn't working, Warren goes to the living room to check if he can turn to any other channels. Somehow, the TV wasn't affected by the internet connection not working. Warren can finally change the channel as the channels were no longer blocked, at least for now. Warren started looking through TV channels that were extremely explicit. As Warren switched through TV channels, it showed very explicit content, such as child rape, a racist guy talking about offensive topics, sexual content, scary puppet plays, violent fighting, a guy getting sliced in half, someone saying how he hates children, a guy taking a shit in their bathroom, people worshipping Satan, graphic content, cursed videos, and also showed a kid getting interpreted by a green bulldog. After a little while of looking through channels, he came across a cartoon which wasn't for children. It was actually an adult cartoon, and Warren decided to watch that instead. The show was graphic and showed many explicit content that was not meant for Warren to see. Warren starts to get concerned by what he was seeing and wanted to change to another TV show. While Warren was in the middle of watching TV, he heard some noise coming from outside. He checked out the window and saw what looked like to be a burglar trying to break into his house. Warren thought it was some visitor and was scared also. The burglar saw Warren and tried to make him open the door, but Warren was too scared to. Apparently, the unknown burglar was actually messing with the antenna in the top of the house roof, which caused the internet connection to stop working. It was also obvious that whoever the burglar was actually trying to rob their house without Warren's guardians knowing. After 6 minutes of the burglar trying to break in, he gave up and walked away. Warren went back to the living room and he decided to watch an adventure and family-friendly movie that Warren seemed to get into. But right then, the TV stopped working. Since the internet was not working with the antenna messed up, Warren went to his room to play with his iPad. His iPad actually started working and wasn't affected by the internet connection trouble. Warren watched videos on it until he came across scary videos. Warren was watching these videos of characters getting killed by everyday objects. The videos were meant to be for kids, but whoever made the videos were trying to scare the kids with all these bloody and gore graphic videos, and they weren't supposed to be seen by children. This didn't freak out Warren too much because the videos were animated rather than shooted in real life like horror movie shootings. Warren started playing games on his iPad until it was 5%. Warren charged his iPad and went to bed. 3 a.m. Warren was in bed, still staying wide awake, when he heard a groan. At first, he thought it was coming from his guardian's bedroom, as he always hears moaning from their room, but it sounded like it was coming from the kitchen. Warren got out of bed and went out to check the kitchen. There was nobody there, so he checked in the living room, and nobody was there either. Warren was about to go back to his room when he saw a shadow pass by in the dining room. Terrified, Warren looks behind him only to find nobody there. Warren starts to get scared and starts to go to his room. But before he got to his room, he heard a creepy noise from the front door. Warren froze, staring at the front door with his eyes wide open, and was absolutely horrified out of his mind. Warren then speed walked to his room and he shut the door and locked it. When Warren was finally in his room, he thought the burglar was at his house again, trying to break in. Warren looked out his window, but couldn't find anybody. It was too hard to see anyways, because it was dark outside and Warren couldn't tell if anybody was actually there. Then, all of a sudden, the power went off. All the lights in the house, the air condition, including Warren's bedroom, stopped working, and Warren was all alone in his bedroom with his lights powered off. Warren froze once and was horrified once again. Since his bedroom lights wouldn't turn on, he opened his bedroom door and went to knock on his guardian's bedroom door, but nobody opened it. Warren started to cry, because since all of the lights in the house were off and wouldn't turn on, Warren didn't know how to calm himself down. Warren sat down in the hallway, wishing for the lights to turn back on. Warren went to his bedroom and checked out his bedroom window to check outside. But it was too dark and was literally pitch black, and Warren couldn't see anything at all. Warren starts to feel hopeless and tries to get one of his guardians to open the door, but still, one of them never opened the door, and was probably asleep. At this point, it wasn't the lights that would calm Warren down, but any human like Warren's guardians would calm him down. This explains that Warren doesn't care if all the lights were off. As long as someone is with him, he wouldn't be scared. Warren went back to his room feeling helpless, and got to bed and tried to go to sleep, but right then, he heard the creepy sounds from the walls again. This made it 10 times worse for Warren, and he felt like there was an actual monster coming for him. With all the lights off, the creepy sound from the front door, and the creepy sound from the walls, it was like Warren was suffering from his fears and phobias in deep dark hell. 4 a.m. Warren woke up at 4 a.m. He just woke up from a nightmare, and he was already miserable. From his scary experiences from what happened earlier around 3 a.m. He got out of bed and went to flick his light on, and luckily for him, the light turned back on. In fact, all the lights around the house turned back on while Warren was asleep. Warren checked his iPad to see what percent it was. It was 25%. Because the power turned off, the iPad stopped charging. Warren doesn't know when the power turned back on. Warren decided to watch family-friendly videos on his iPad, and he was now less afraid. After a while of watching videos on his iPad, he went to the living room to watch TV, thinking that it works since the internet connection is working. Luckily for him, the television was working, and Warren started to watch many cartoons. While he was watching TV, he heard some noises coming from outside. Then suddenly, he heard shooting from outside his house. Warren went to look outside the front yard of his house and saw two people shooting at each other far from his house. Eventually, the two guys settled down and they both went to smoke and hang out in front of Warren's house. The two guys hung out there until they both decided to sneak and peek around Warren's house. They managed to open the front yard gate and they snuck around and stole some stuff and even sabotaged some stuff for fun. Simultaneously, Warren starts getting so sleep deprived that he starts hallucinating. He saw many nightmare visions from his perspectives. It was almost like he is drunk. Warren started walking in wrong directions and got hurt a few times. Meanwhile, the two guys were done hanging around smoking at Warren's house backyard and they both sneak out with stolen property. 5 a.m. Warren woke up after falling asleep in the middle of the dining room. The TV somehow turned off by itself, but the lights were still on. Warren went to go to his bedroom when all of a sudden, he heard a noise from the kitchen. Warren turned around and saw a shadow moving upon being in the kitchen. For some time, Warren was doing his own thing for a while until he started getting sleepy. Warren got so tired that he fell asleep with half of his body laid down on his bed. Later, he got himself up to lay his whole body in the bed and slept peacefully. When Warren woke up the next morning, he got up to go eat breakfast. When he opened his door to walk out, he saw a man scrapping off the wall. Apparently, the creepy noise that was coming from the walls last night was actually coming from a rooster, which died around morning. Somehow, it was able to make weird creepy noises even though it was badly injured inside the walls last night. The rooster had some of its guts ripped out and was visibly shown, it had scratches all over it, it had half of its bones shown, and had dried blood all over it. It has seemed to have been rotting in there for a long time and Warren's guardians didn't even know it. This scared the blistering shit out of Warren's ass, and he did not feel like eating breakfast that morning after seeing the dead rooster. Unfortunately, the rooster had caused a bad smell around the house. In fact, it was so bad that Warren and his guardians decided to go to Warren's grandparents' house for the weekend. But to their shock, they went out to their front yard only to find a big mess surrounding their house. Warren's guardians were surprised by the mess. Just then, a neighbor came up to them and told them that last night there was a party going on that was right by their house, and they trashed their front yard that night. This annoyed Darius, but Anna didn't seem to care at all. Warren's guardians did not even know their backyard equipment, including Warren's outside play toys, were stolen. Warren and his guardians got in the car and drove to Warren's grandparents' house. He and his both guardians were lucky that today was Saturday, and that they won't have to stay in their house living with that disgusting smell. Warren's grandparents' house was far away from Warren's school, so this explains why they were lucky. Warren went to his grandpa's bedroom to sleep there for the day, since he stayed wide awake last night. Warren's guardians explained to Anna's parents what happened at their vandalized house and how the workers found a dead cock in their walls, which absolutely flabbergasted them both. The end.